Childhood, growing and developing years of a person, this is meant to be a highly important fundamentals and skills necessary to be a success. Instead, the trauma CPS creates in these young minds set a path of disaster, and statistics prove it. In nearly 90% of their cases, the trauma is unnecessary. Time is the one thing that can never be given back. CPS takes away moments in life that can't be replaced. The time just keeps going, doesn't mean a thing anymore. They left as children, and it's up to them when they come home if they know who you are. Each second away is time you will never get back and keep getting older.
Studies are leading towards incarceration.
Now comes the honorable judge in the halls of justice, where the Constitution will hold strong, and your rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness will trample CPS for all they have done to your child.
The truth and corruption that's revealed to you is enough to make you sick. This is not America we were sold.
Children are being taken from families at the rate of one a minute. It needs to be stopped.
It's time to wake up and abolish CPS.
In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
Have been caught with little kids, how many senators and congressmen, with the pages, and how many DHS officials, that want to stop child abuse, it turns out, are pedophiles. When you get down to it, you got a couple groups. You got parents that were, you've got children who were abused, who think that all parents are abusive and they're gonna punish the family. Because I went to college with some people that were going to be social workers, and you'd be out drinking beer, and the girl would say, I just can't wait to take kids from these bad parents because I was abused. So there's those mentally ill people. Then there's pedophiles who want access to kids, and then there's scumbags that just want money. And I got to say, that's basically what makes up CPS in my experience. And I think, from what I've seen, I'd probably say 30% of them are pedophiles. And I mean, and the problem is this crime rate, this crime spree is just is growing.
Yes, it is.
So can you comment on that? And where is this going? How do we stop them?
Well, I would say that there are definitely are pedophiles in the system. There's no question about that, because we know where there's children, there are pedophiles. You know, they're in schools and they're in churches and they're everywhere where they can get their hands on children. So we know that that's true. And it's got to be brought to an end. It's got to be completely exposed for what it is. And in my opinion, it needs to completely be dissolved. I don't see any good left in child protective services. As far as picking up a child that's being totally abused, the police could do that just as well as child protective services.
And then you have due process. And exactly. We'll take Texas. Did you hear about the Texas Youth Commission?
I don't know.
I mean, there's so many crimes. I'm not knocking you if you haven't.
You're not talking about all those children in Texas that were picked up at one time.
No, that was with that Mormon sect.
Right.
Did you hear about how the child jails and the child facilities had organized pornographic rings and like big rape parties for the children, and the state police found out about it and then weren't allowed to stop it, and now they forced the director out because he did the right thing?
I have heard about that in other states, but I have not heard about what happened in Texas, no.
Okay, well, here in Texas, it came out that every major facility was doing stuff that people wouldn't even believe. You can read it in the mainstream news. Now, they used that to pass a law for more money for the agencies. I'm sure you heard about Florida, where it turned out the directors were pedophiles and
yes.
3,000 kids were missing and all that. What did they get? More money, more power. The incredible thing is, the worse they get, the more money and power they get.
It appears that way. It appears that way. But all of it is based on money, and that's where it's going to have to be cut off. The federal incentives have got to be cut off and be removed on a federal level in order to get this stopped.
And that's where we go now in the closing minutes we have left in this interview, Senator. And again, we can only commend you and pray for you in this fight and then politically going after you. Solutions. But before we hit that, I wanted to finish up. Specific orders for specific children that look a specific way. I mean, you've now saying you've discovered that.
Right. We have discovered that. We haven't discovered it in every state, but we've discovered it in many states. And we have so many families calling that are absolutely delirious. They are so desperate. They do not know where to turn. And actually, they have no place to turn for help. And, of course, parents, the poorer the families are, those are the ones who are targeted because they don't have the wherewithal to fight the system or hire an attorney. And they are just caught up in it, and many of them are because their children are blue-eyed or blonde or exactly what someone wants, and those families are targeted. So it is just heartbreaking as to what is going on and what we've got to do in order to bring this to an end.
Have you ever heard about what the former head FBI agent in Southern California discovered about the CPS, even in the 80s? They have public auctions, closed auctions in Las Vegas with the kids on the block. These people.
Well, you know, we have some states now that put the children on the internet, and you can just go through their pictures and choose the one you want.
See how pure evil's just right out in the open now, like it's no big deal.
And then there are some children that even if you might like to, if a really good person who is really trying to help a child will choose that child, oftentimes then they refuse to let these parents have the child. So if your motives are pure as the driven snow, and you're trying to really help get a child out of that system and give them a new life, oftentimes they won't let the child go.
No, they want client houses where they warehouse the kids, a lot of times locked up, and they've ruled, they can legally lock them up and stuff in these little cages. They only want client foster parents that want to run the money in and put them on drugs because that's shared with the local CPS.
Right. It's just, it is one of the most corrupt situations that we could ever have in this country. And
yeah, well, what we need is to take the country back, have mass trials, and hang about 10,000 of these people high, because this rivals the Nazis. By the way, the Nazis had CPS. That's how they started grabbing people's kids. The year Hitler was elected in 1933, he was a eugenicist. We'll be right back with the senator. Stay with us. Final segment. You know, the senator probably had a million more things she could have told you, but I was interrupting the whole time. But it's because I'm trying to relay and back up everything she's saying, that it's so horrible that even when I think about it, and I've been studying it for 14 years, I can't believe it. And, I mean, you'll be facing down one of these CPS workers, and, man, you're like, I mean, these are demonic, soft, goblin-like creatures. I mean, they're archetypes. Because, I mean, how could somebody go around stealing kids all day outside the law and seeing horror? They enjoy it. They're evil. They enjoy the pain. I'm going to ask the senator about some solutions, maybe have her back on to go over some more of those and how to fight these people, how to expose them. I got to tell you, okay, Senator, what are solutions to fight these demons? I mean, do we just get the public educated, what we're doing now, about their rights, get bigger organizations together to fight them, Congress, state laws? Because we always push to get state laws to stop them, and they always take it over and get more power out of us trying to lobby to reform. How do we beat pure evil?
Very, very strong bill that I introduced to correct it here in the state of Georgia, and of course that bill was defeated. I also had several parents lined up to come down and do a video, and the video was defeated. And then, of course, I lost my Senate seat. So there's a huge battle over this, and many states don't want to let that money go that they've gotten used to. And one thing we haven't mentioned that I'd like to bring out is how huge the bureaucracy is. It is made up of caseworkers and social workers and attorneys and guardian ad litem and judges and psychiatrists and psychologists, and it goes on and on. The bureaucracy is huge, made up of people who look to the children in child protective services for their job security. And none of these people want to let this be brought to an end.
In fact,
this is where they get their paycheck.
And it's not being brought to an end. It's radically expanding.
Absolutely it is, and they're expanding with it. And we can see the children that are already being sent into mental health facilities. I had a mother that 2 children were put in mental health facilities, and of course that brings in Medicaid, and these 2 children were on 16 drugs a day.
Good Lord.
So it is corrupt to its absolute core, and we must stand against it. We must keep talking about it. And families that are listening to us today that are caught up in this, they need to continue to fight the system.
Okay, Senator, I got to stop you. We got 45 seconds. What about websites, or how do folks get a copy of your bill to get it passed in their state? I got to have you back for more solutions, but contact info, groups you recommend.
There are just worlds of groups that they can recommend, or they can contact me at Eagle Forum of Georgia.
Just Google Eagle Forum of Georgia, or there's also the Senator Nancy Schaefer website as well. Nancy Schaefer, we want to have you back up. God bless you. You're a true angel, and we appreciate your courage. I know it's hard to do what you do because it's so hard. God bless you.
Man, oh man, isn't that something? That's 15 years ago, and we're having the same fight today as Nancy Schaefer was all that time ago. People, this just goes to tell you that this fight is real. It's been going on. We're not fruitcakes. We're not tinfoil hat wearers. These things are made to be beaten. We just got to figure out ways to do it. There are people out there that are supporting us in this. We just got to find them. And there's stories out there that can show you that it is able to be done. Welcome, guys, to this Thursday evening of CPS Victims Hunting Justice. I am your host, CPS Punisher. As always, we've got the chat right here. So please get in there, comment on that, ask us questions, things that you need. But tonight we got a great night ahead of us. We got Charles in the house with us with Melissa. They're visiting. They're on the one mic tonight, and then we also have a special guest. But let's bring out Melissa and let's bring out Herbert here real quick, and then we'll get to our special guest. What's up, guys?
Okay.
Herbert,
Fine.
Herbert,
I was listening.
Hold on, Herbert. You got to fix the thing. Herbert, and his noise. Melissa, how you doing tonight?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. Charles, how you doing, buddy? You still in there? Are you being
Oh,
quiet?
I'm having a very interesting visit over here in Alabama.
All right.
Your partner in crime is very impressive.
All right, good. Yes, that she is. Well, guys, so tonight we have a guest. Herbert, you need to get there. Did you get the reverb fixed? Let's try one more time. Herbert?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, what I was saying is your guest that you had on earlier, that you were talking to from Texas, she had mentioned about doing a warning shot in the ear. It's illegal.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's get to that, Herbert. We haven't even gotten there yet. So hold on 1 second. We'll get to that. So that being said, as a prequel to come here, let's bring out our girl, Macy. Macy, how are you? Macy, are you there?
Goodness, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm good.
Oh.
How are you guys?
Oh, all right. No worries. So Macy, you're kind of a special breed here. You've actually beat this system.
Nearly, yes.
Right. Well, you've made it so that your kids have remained safe with you.
Yes, sir.
Right. So, do you want to give everybody a little bit of your story and see what kind of things we could relish about and see what we can get information of you about what you've did and maybe what people can do?
Yes. I mean, we've been dealing with CPS since 2, and I had my kids removed March 2nd and gotten them back. I believe it was December 25th of 2023. Okay. And then we had them removed for the second time due to a failed drug test by the Delta in February of 2023. And then we had gotten them back recently, April 9th of this year. And with my attorney, we have been pushing to for a motion to dismiss, and we have been really heavy on that stuff.
Right.
I can studying what I and just keeping in mind of what I've learned. I have a really huge notebook full of paperwork. I have stuff that I've personally gone and researched. I have the sites and everything from where I found that information. I made sure it was a verified website before I was like, oh, well, this says I wanted to make proof and my evidence to back up what I was trying. I really think one thing about trying to defeat CPS is having your proof and your evidence, and always record your conversations, because the CPS caseworkers do coerce you and manipulate you and blackmail you. Many times I've been coerced, manipulated, and blackmailed. I was alone and I didn't record because at the time I was not aware of my rights, and Texas is a one-party consent state. So you legally
now, what does
have
that mean?
Right.
What does that mean if you're a one-party consent state?
So it means that if you're a party so say I was part of the party, and I legally have every right to record without asking for their consent, because I have already consented to recording, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. No, absolutely, it does. And states have different rules, right? So we want to check those things out.
Yes.
All right.
My best is you really study the laws that whatever state you live in. Everything is different. Not a lot of states are like Texas. I did have my 4th and my 14th Amendment violated. And when I had learned that, that really made my blood boil because I'm a firm believer of the government works for us. We do not work for them. I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist.
Well, I mean, it's not really a theory; that's a fact, right? Like
Right,
that's
right.
that's right.
Yes.
So all of them out there that want to call us theorists, well, no, we work in the reality. We work in the
Yes.
facts here.
I just say that because people are like, oh, well, that's just something. And I'm like, no, it's facts. You just look it up yourself. It's right there in front of your face. There's
Right. It does say "we the people" on the Constitution.
exactly.
Right.
Yes. But yes, I really, even if you've never dealt with CPS in your life, I really do strongly encourage you to know your rights, know how to confront them when they do come to your door. That was something I did not know. The police officer actually forced entry into our home, had her foot in the door, and she was not getting off my property until she came inside. So that was something that was very illegal. And they
Now,
didn't have a warrant.
what was your imminent danger situation that they had to come and bust into your home?
It was a DV situation.
Okay.
Yes. My fiance, who I'm with, and my husband, or basically my husband of my children, or father of my children as well. He has gone through a lot of work. He doesn't have any excuses for his actions, but at the same time, he had just recently lost his dad. He had his dad in his life a lot longer than I had. So I can really only imagine how that affected somebody when I was 5. So I didn't really, I was torn, don't get me wrong, and I was very traumatized, but I can only imagine what it does to somebody who has their father and, mother for so many years. But he had gotten the help that he needed, and he has learned his lesson, learned it the hard way because he didn't have his children for about a year, about the same time as my son and we had to leave the home. And if we didn't, then they threatened to take my child. And I was like, no, absolutely not. You're not taking my child. So I was pregnant at the time, and I had left. And then we were jumping around like house to house because I don't have a village where I'm at. I don't have family. I don't have friends here. So I had stayed in a DV shelter. I moved in with a friend out of town where I lived. And then finally we were able to do unsupervised visits or overnight stays. And then that one night that everything happened, I didn't feel safe, and I didn't want my children around that situation at all. So I had my children in the truck, and I was trying to leave and go back to my mom's house because that's where I was staying, my friend. I was fixing to have my baby, so I needed to stay somewhere where I would have been able to have my child and it be, a safe environment. So thankfully my mom and my stepdad, took me in, and my son, and then my daughter. And I got my kids taken for doing the right. Another pinpoint, do not get the police involved unless you are seriously threatened with your life and you have you just have no other choice to do. Because once you do get them involved, sorry, but you're screwed. You are very, very, very screwed. They are twisted, manipulating. The justice system is not justice system anymore. It never has been. They don't care about us, and they don't care about your children. They just care about the fundings, and they care about that paycheck they get every month. So when I had called and had the police officer come out and get the keys for me, because my fiance, he took the keys from me, that just, I left with my children at that time, and then the caseworker had twisted and falsified the affidavit to get what they wanted, and that was my children. And I had gone through that affidavit very, very, very slowly. I highlighted everything. I corrected everything. And I took this is not correct. My caseworker has just committed felonies over felony over felony. There's tons of state codes in Texas that go under perjury, falsifying affidavits, and lying on the stand. That's 3 separate Texas codes right there. So that's 3
You're right.
separate felonies that are committed. But I went through every single thing. I have every single affidavit from the day that this all started. I have dissected each and every single one of those. I have really dove deep into the CPS policies and procedures. They have it on their website. They don't go by it. So if you don't have your children, I strongly advise you to dive really deep into those CPS or DFPS, policies and procedures, because they don't follow them themselves. And if you can catch evidence and have evidence to back up what they're not following, and submit that to the court, more than likely you're going to win. It's not going to be a one-time thing. You're going to repeat yourself until you're finally heard, because they don't care. They really don't. My judge that I have, she is an associate judge. She's not even a real judge. Every single affidavit she's ever signed, she has signed illegally. It's all invalid affidavits. She has no jurisdiction. She, like I said, is just an. I think it's really important to pay attention to how your court orders and affidavits are signed. And I just, I had messaged my attorney today. I had her call me, and at our last court hearing, when the motion to dismiss was brought up, she had said that she would like tested for autism. And like we were talking about last night, in the state of Texas, legally everywhere I've called, they're not allowed to diagnose or begin testing on children until at least 3 to 4 years old. And so I called the place where I'm on the waiting list too, and I had them email me something typed up stating that he's still on the waiting list if they were to dismiss the case, because that was something the judge was worried about. I had personally called myself and got that appointment because I'm not having the CPS caseworker do that. I don't trust anybody nowadays.
Right.
And yes, so I called and I had something emailed to me. I emailed it to my attorney. My attorney and I were just trying to checkpoint off of everything that she did in court. And so as of right now, we have basically every checkpoint checked off, and we're just waiting to see what she says about that, because I even told my attorney is actually court-appointed, and I had told her that I do not want to get my child tested for autism right now because I do not want the judge to have funding from that. He even agreed with me on that. I have the 1% out of the 99 court-appointed attorneys that do not work for you. I have the one that actually does work for me, and she is doing a fabulous job. Ever since I fired my previous attorney, I felt like I was the actual attorney in the courtroom, because when it came to hearsay, attorney never stood up and, had my back like he was supposed to. So at the end of that court hearing, the judge was like, "Is there anything else?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And I told my attorney, I said, "I'd like to fire you." And then he was kind of shocked and got his feelings hurt, and because he had to say it himself, having the court-appointed attorney in court. So, yeah, that was funny and fun all at the same. Yeah, it's I strongly advise to keep all of your paperwork. Every single thing you've ever signed, you have every single right to have a copy of everything you've ever signed. I know it's strongly advised not to sign a contract with CPS, because that's exactly what a safety plan is. If you are coerced and manipulated and blackmailed, you make sure you have that on video, and then you do not sign the safety plan, and you take that, I believe it's to district court or federal court, I can't remember. But there's several steps that you could do. I've not had to go this far yet, but I did tell my attorney and my fiancé that if this case is not dismissed within a month or two, I will be taking this to district court or federal court, because I said I will be doing that myself, because she legally has no reason to have the case open still. Under one of the title codes, Texas codes, subsection, I can't remember, but it says that legally they have 18 months to have a case open. Well, whenever we had the interrupted monitored return, that basically like reset all of the dates. So in my mind, that doesn't sound right at all. In my mind, it sounds like it needs to be 18 months, and that's period. You know, there was immediate danger to my children, but towards them, it was just they were in the situation at the time. So that's what had got them taken. So if you're in an abusive relationship, I suggest leaving it. It's not worth it. It's not worth losing your children over. I'm a firm believer in people can change, and I'm a firm believer in people can help that they need. It's not me that is like trying to change somebody. If you change for yourself and for the better, then I believe in you. And sorry, my daughter's crying, so I'm gonna have to go check on her.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Go ahead and talk.
Yeah, we'll get you in that. What do you think? Oh, you know what? Let's get Herbert out here. Let's see if we eliminated this rock in here. We haven't got to the gun part yet, but so far, Herbert, what are you thinking about what she says? Melissa, what are you guys thinking?
I think that what she says is very good points that she's making.
Yeah, no, she definitely.
I would agree, and I've always argued that using their own policies against them. One of the things that me and Kim used to do, we would sit down with the Alabama policy manual. We would go through their policies, and then we would compare it to the state statutes.
Okay.
Then we would take both of those and compare it to a lot of federal cases that deem both of them to be wrong.
Right. Or would you take them, like, put them into certain situations or something, like make your own?
Well, okay, here's the for instance. Alabama DHR says in their policies they have to hold a 72-hour hearing within 14 days. State of Alabama says they have to hold it in 10 days. Well, every bit of case law I've ever found says they have 72 hours and they cannot do more than a 72-hour extension, essentially to allow for a weekend. Otherwise, it is a violation of due process. So we've had a few cases where we've made that very same argument, and kids have come home because the judge took 45 days to hold a 72-hour hearing.
Right. Now, what is the rule? Like, that's rule, right? Like, that's 72-hour hearing is 72-hour hearing, right? If they don't do that within that specific amount of time, then is it game over?
Well, you remember the case that I sent you, Ex parte TC, that speaks of void ab initio?
Yep.
That all started with a violation of due process starting right from the 72-hour hearing, because her 72-hour hearing wasn't heard for 14 days. Then her adjudicatory hearing was not held within 6 months, and her permanency hearing was not held within a year. All very well documented, mandated court hearings. And Austin prepared it and argued it in a way, arguing that it tainted his entire case with his client to the point that he was able to get the whole case thrown out under a ruling of void ab initio.
Oh, wow. So that's good. That means that that's something to, because in a situation like we had, our attorney actually said that we were better off to waive the 72-hour hearing. That way they couldn't use certain information against us, because this court would be the first, I guess, record.
Honestly, Darren, I would agree with that in part due to the fact that it depends on what the allegation is.
Well, here's the thing. This is what I'm going to tell you, is that not defending yourself or not going to that court case allows them to now go ahead and say that you weren't willing to come out and argue these things. It allows them to make all kinds of judgments on you. So what if some information came out that was hearsay or whatever? I get it. There's that danger zone. But it was more destructive to my situation because they used it against us, saying that we weren't concerned about our child being removed. We waived the hearing. So
Well, so let me give you a for instance of that, because I have another family that I work with there in the Bangor area that kind of we actually chose to waive the 72 hour. The mother drove down to the corner gas station to get a gallon of milk. Her child was taking a nap, which I absolutely don't condone leaving a child home alone. Child was 15 months old, asleep in his crib with the camera on him, with her live feed to the camera while she's in the car. Okay. She ended up rear-ending someone.
Oh, Jesus almighty.
Right. Lightly. She didn't total the car or nothing, but it was enough that got the cops there. Well, so because she had the kid at home, she told the woman, she says, look, I got to drive 2 blocks down the road. My son's there. So she left the scene of the accident. She went down to her house. She checked on her kid. The cops ended up coming down to her house, you know, writing her a ticket for leaving the scene of an accident. And the next day, CPS showed up and took her kid. Okay. There was no real grounds for the continued removal. There was no risk of harm. There was a risk of a harm by her leaving the house, but there was not someone there beating the kid. There was no drugs. There was no other. So in her, for instance, it was better to waive the 72-hour hearing because the judge didn't get to hear about the accident. The only thing he got to hear, instead of hearing all the hearsay, was he got to hear the facts of the case, which then the kid ended up going home at the dependency hearing.
Right. So yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on which way it is, but just to be knowledgeable and educated on the fact of what the 72-hour hearing represents.
Right. Yeah. You should almost never waive them. You should almost always appeal them under an interlocutory appeal. A very brilliant attorney here in Alabama told me, he says, look, that entire thing is based on hearsay. If you appeal it and it's all a hearsay argument, then you can argue that they're using hearsay to, you know, bring these offenses against you that you aren't guilty of. And most of those appeals usually render the kid home, and that would be an interlocutory appeal, like a writ of mandamus.
Right.
Writ of mandamus is not an interlocutory appeal.
Well, interlocutory appeals and writ of mandamus, because there's been a few judges that have given them shit, and then you got to use the writ to get the judge back in track. But anyways, so I mean, from that perspective, I don't believe waiving a 72-hour hearing is good unless they have straight facts against you and it is going to paint your case ugly.
Right. And don't forget, we're not lawyers and so on and so forth. So make sure
most of us are not lawyers.
None of us are, right, at this point.
Well, no, he's still a lawyer. He just ain't a practicing attorney.
Right. All right. Right.
Or is that you're an attorney, but you're not a practicing lawyer?
One of my emails is attorneys outlaw.
Outlaw, yes, an attorney's outlaw. So Macy, Charles is an attorney, but some people didn't like the way he atturned, so they decided to strip him of his your bar license, right, Charles?
Oh yeah, I mean, I used to be an attorney at law, and now I'm an attorney outlaw.
Right. You lost your keys to the country club is really all that you lost.
I know
you didn't play well with
that's worth a lot of money, unfortunately.
the ex-wife left with the rest of the things that weren't attached to the keys to the country club.
Oh, Lord Almighty. Well, that's for another day. So, Macy, what are you here? Are you back from rescuing the children's? All right, cool. So let's go back to, and I know that this is like preschool stuff, but our biggest thing here is education, 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 and trying to get it out there, which that's a question that we can ask you after this. But tell us about when CPS comes to your door. What is the things that you know of that to defend yourself from CPS showing up and coming into your home? Like what are some of the things that you recommend to use, to do, to say, any of those type things?
So first, I'm in the state of Texas, so legally you're able to give 3 warnings, verbal warnings to get off if you have no trespassing signs on your property, and private property signs as well. And I know Herbert said that shooting a shot in the air is illegal, but I would rather shoot a shot in the air than actually shoot somebody in their leg. So I've never read that was illegal. It's a warning shot to get off my property. And especially if the police officer doesn't do their duties or their due diligence that they're supposed to do when you have now changed this civil matter to a criminal matter because this CPS agent is not leaving your home or your property. So that's why I said that. And we are gun owners, so we know our laws, we know our rights, and we know what we can and cannot do. We hunt all the time, so that just kind of threw me off is why he said that. But
Herbert, where were you drawing this warning shot thing from, Herbert?
I was listening to her earlier, and she talked about warning shots. So I called Texas to find out if Texas allows warning shots. They said no, it's a misdemeanor.
No.
Now, if you walked outside and you told somebody, get off. If you walked outside and told somebody, get off my property, and you have a handgun in your hand or a shotgun in your hand, that's all you need. You don't have to squeeze that trigger and pull off around, because now you're going to be charged with a misdemeanor.
It says here, if you do be arrested for a serious felony, while you won't find the word warning shot in the Texas Penal Code, Texas courts are likely to consider such a shot as a use of deadly force. Texas law defines deadly force as force capable of causing death. But I think if someone's attacking your yard, don't you guys have the defend your castle law at your place?
No. You can't defend property. You can defend yourself.
I'm defending my children and my home. And so my brother in the military telling me that I have 3 verbal warnings and I can shoot the person on my property, that's not illegal, is it? Because my brother wouldn't lie to me as in the military.
I'll check, but I don't think you can shoot for property in Texas.
Yeah,
so if I
don't believe, No, you have to be threatened. You have to show and prove you're threatened for your life. Charles, you can help me out on this. You have to show.
Hold on a minute. No, I got it. I got it right here. Watch this. We're going to do it right like this. Here we go. I'm going to do this. Here we go. Here we go, guys. This one will answer it for us.
Police with an open and ongoing investigation earlier this month. A homeowner told police that he fired 3 warning shots after seeing a man outside his back door. One of those shots hit that man. Although he says he was protecting his home, the question remains whether he will be charged.
Oh, come on. Whether he will be charged
with a crime in this case. In Texas, you are allowed to defend your own home or property. You're also allowed to use force in self-defense. But in most cases, you're not allowed to shoot warning shots. As Jeffany Gray reports, this makes this one a complicated case.
I don't see the complication
30
because
a.m.
they
December
clearly
16th
said,
at a home on Warren Street just north of downtown. San Antonio police say a homeowner woke up to his dog barking and saw a man he didn't know outside his back door. A police report states the homeowner got his gun and told the man to
leave. What the hell's going on?
Leave, and when he refused, the homeowner fired warning shots. 2 warning shots in the air, but the third warning shot aimed at the ground, causing the bullet to ricochet and hit the man in the shin. Texas law says that you can use deadly force to protect your land or property in some cases. This could be to prevent arson, burglary, or other crimes, and if the person believes that that property can't be protected or recovered by any means. But if you fire warning shots, it could be considered disorderly or deadly conduct. Under Texas law, recklessly discharging a gun in a public place other than a shooting range is against the law. It's also against the law to recklessly fire a gun on private or public property within cities that have a population of 100,000 or more. If you encounter someone trespassing on your property, the best thing to do is to call police. But if you feel like your life is in danger and you're acting in self-defense, Texas law could protect you. For the 9, I'm Japhanie Gray.
Again, San Antonio police have not said whether the homeowner will be charged with a crime. If he is,
that's a lot of gray area there, huh?
no, it's not gray to me. It's not gray. Texas, what I just heard, what I just heard wasn't gray. I can straighten it out. What I heard is that Texas has the right to protect your property.
No, you don't have the right
You can shoot someone to protect your property. That's what I heard. Then I also heard.
I'm Japhanie Gray.
Again, San Antonio.
Hold on.
Okay.
In self-defense, Texas law could protect you. For the 9, I'm Japhanie Gray.
See, that says right there, if you're acting in self-defense.
The best thing to do is to call police. But if you feel like your life is in danger and you're acting in self-defense, Texas law could protect you.
Yeah, that's not great to me. That's very straight. Texas is one of the few states you can protect property. Most states you can't protect property. So in other words, if somebody's trying to take your car out of the driveway, you can say, "Get away from my car," and they don't move away from your car, you can shoot them in Texas. But you can't say, "Get away from my car," and shoot up in the sky several times. That's against the law.
The warning shot is the illegal part.
Illegal.
That's right. Because whatever goes up comes down. It'll come down a half mile away and hit Grandma Moses and kills her.
So Macy, I guess the rule here is just tell them that you're a horrible shot and you missed. It wasn't a warning shot.
Yeah, well, there you go. You could do that. So you can say I was aiming at the person and I missed the person, and that's your warning shot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But to shoot a round in the sky and let the police know that's illegal, because the round's going to come down somewhere and it might be on Grandma Moses' head.
Right. So yeah, the best thing to say is, "Hey, I missed. It was a terrible shot."
Yeah. Now, most states, you can't shoot for property. So if somebody's stealing your car, you can't stop them. You can hit them with a baseball bat or a golf club, but you can't shoot them.
All right. Well, in Texas we could. So okay. So moving along anyway, Macy. You missed your shot that you fired.
And I 100% felt threatened.
Right. So go on with your story.
I have just learned to, when they show up at your door, if they don't have a court order or a warrant, you ask them to get off of your property. And if they do not get off your property, then yes, you call the cops in that scenario, because at that time they're showing up to be investigators and to investigate. So that's always the beginning of the CPS case. And the next time if they show up and they do have findings that, your child's being abused or neglected, then the way to handle that is when the police officer is there, if they still don't have a court order or a court warrant or a warrant to come inside of your home and seize your property, what is it, Fourth Amendment? Then you have to, or you ask the police officer, you tell the CPS agent, get off my property. You have your 3 times verbally, And whenever they do not get off of your property, you then turn to the police officer and you say, "Sir, are you, or ma'am, are you here for a civil or a criminal matter?" And they're going to answer you civil matter. And then when you say, "Okay, well now this is now turned into a criminal matter because this person will not get off my property and they have to do their job." And if they don't do their job, that's another case right there.
Right. You tell them that you want them arrested or removed for trespassing, right?
Right.
Yes. But in the state of Texas, you have to have private trespassing signs. I feel like it should be everywhere, but I'm not sure. I don't know all of my laws to all my
I think it's I know in the state of Maine, it's every 100 feet you have to have them posted around your properties. I don't know about Texas, but I know in the state of Maine that you need to have them every 100 feet. 300 feet or 100 yards. Which one is it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have overabundance.
But just being verbal and saying to the person, "You are on private property. Leave." You just took their license and privilege away from them for being on your property. Just telling them you're on private property. Leave. They don't leave. Now you can have them arrested for trespass.
So were you able to do that the first time, Macy, when it happened to you, or did you not know these rules yet?
I was not educated, and the police officer forced entry into my home and told us that my son and I needed to leave.
He forced his way into your house?
Yes. They had their foot in the door after I told them to leave. Everything is fine. Like, there's no reason you guys need to be here. And forced entry into the home by wedging her foot in between the door and between me. And tried to still come in my house, and she did come in because she pushed the door open.
Now, what was the reason for there? Wellness check?
Basically, yes.
Okay. Were the police officers wearing body cameras?
I'm not sure. More than likely, I didn't pay attention to any of that. I was so PO'd at the time because she had just forced entry into my home. I wasn't even paying attention to that.
I mean, that smells like some lawsuit right there, because I know we've seen a couple of things where if they didn't have a warrant and they were brought there by the CPS people, that's an absolute no-no.
Yes.
We learned that, didn't we, there, Herbert?
No, that's correct. They can't come in. Actually, the CPS has to present you with paperwork that says they could come in. They don't present you with the proper paperwork signed by a judge. You don't let nobody in.
Right. But, however, the police can come there on their own and ask to do a wellness check, in which case you have to abide by the cops. Is that correct? That's what we learned in that Chicago case, right? With that guy, and the police turned it into their own investigation, saying that they wanted to see the kids, and the guy was refusing to let him in. You remember we watched that video, and the cop said that we were going to take it upon ourselves because they wanted to see the children. He wanted to go in the house to see the kids, not let them come out.
Well, you see, that's a hairy thing for me, because my understanding is that CPS should be present all the time. You just don't send a police officer. The only wellness check is that, there's something seriously heavy going on, criminal level going on, to send a police officer for a wellness check. And like, for example, there were gunshots inside the house. The neighbor said, "I heard gunshots and I heard yelling and screaming." Well, now the police can go and investigate. But just to go on a general wellness check? No, that's CPS.
Charles, what do we got for lawsuits and law-wise if they do that stuff? If they're forcing an entry into a home without a warrant, what do we got?
Well, Herbert and I were actually arguing about this a couple of days ago. They have various exceptions that they can talk about: exigent circumstances, immediate danger, active pursuit of a felon, a fleeing felon, and they can even be wrong about that and still be reasonable. I'm afraid that the Supreme Court has carved out exceptions to almost every rule, but basically, when you just say that they enter a home without a warrant, it sounds like a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment. But in point of fact, we thought that there was we thought that there was consent. Why did you think that? Well, they said hello. You know,
Right. They opened the door.
they opened the door and, you know, didn't say, get out of here.
Yeah, and they didn't shut the door on me because, you know, my foot was stuck in the door.
So what
No,
happens after that, PC? So they push their way in the house. What do they do from there?
They
What'd you
were
say?
inside. Wait, are you talking to me or him?
Yeah. What happens?
Macy, I wanted to get a question in. Where are you in Texas?
I will say Brown County.
Brown County? Where's that?
The heart of Texas, basically.
It's what?
The heart of Texas, basically.
The heart of Texas.
The heart of Texas.
Okay, I don't know where Brown County is. I thought I knew
It's
the
in the
counties
middle.
of Texas pretty well.
She says it's basically the middle of Texas, the middle.
Okay, so like southwest of Fort Worth or something?
It's about an hour in Abilene, Texas, Taylor County.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
That's where I'm originally from.
She still got an active. She still has an active case going, so she can't be too particular about where she is.
Yeah.
And everything.
Well, Macy, the only reason he asked is because he actually used to practice law in Texas, and he took on the state of Texas, and they took his license.
Yes, and I mean I know several jurisdictions in Texas.
I can believe that 100%.
So what have they come in? What do they do once they push their way into your house?
They did the wellness check. They interviewed my fiance and I, and then after all of that, they told me that I have to leave where they're taking my son. CPS was taking my son, and I told them, "Fuck you, absolutely not." So I left, and I went on from there for about a year. Yeah, it was probably a few months after. No, I'd say about 6, 7. Most of that was weeks pregnant. So I was moving around. I had stayed in a DV shelter. I had put a lot of stress on my pregnancy. My daughter was born preterm at her being stillborn because of the amount of stress that I had on my entire pregnancy.
Right.
Which I also feel like I could have a lawsuit there too.
Right.
Placenta was so small. My doctor was so concerned about me and my pregnancy just because of the amount of stress that they had put on me. I was moving my 1-year-old son along with me, and the little bit of belongings that we had. So it was very stressful time. It was very hard. There were times where I wanted to give up, and there were times where I cried myself to sleep, just like everybody does who has lost their parent or lost their children. But I didn't, and I fought like hell. I really, really did. Until I was finally heard. I yelled until I was finally heard. I came across as paranoid to one of my counselors, and I told her, like, you're stupid. I'm not paranoid. It's just facts, and if you see that yourself, then that's not my problem. And I think a lot of parents have had when they are ever like involved in a CPS case, and they have every single right to be, because apparently in the freaking country we live in, it's legal for somebody to come and kidnap your child and run off with them and not give you any sort of information on where your child is, how your child is. The day they took my children, I literally blew up my caseworker's phone so much. She had, because I am a concerned parent and I don't play when it comes to my kids.
Right.
And come to find out, they were at the hospital, and you know, there's just so many wicked things that they do to these children. My son, who is 3 years old, is absolutely traumatized. He will not let me out of his sight. He's gotten a lot better about it. But there was, a couple days ago, we went to the store, and there was a guy at the cash register that looked just like the kinship parent that was, you know, taking care of them. And he lost his shit. He kept grabbing me very tightly. He didn't want anything to do with him. I walked outside and he was completely fine. And for a 3-year-old child to react to somebody like that who should not, it just makes my blood boil even more. And these children deserve justice. If anybody deserves justice, it's these children.
Absolutely.
And 100% the parents too, but you have to be willing to meet with whoever you're working with. If you're working with an attorney, if you're working with somebody like you guys or like Malibu, you come halfway and you have to put in the work, because if you don't, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to do things. You have to put in the actions. And even if it's scary, trust me, these kids are scared out of their freaking mind, and I think that actually doing something about it is where you're going to get farther in your case, receive the justice that's deserved. That's something I made very clear to my counselor. I said, I'm not stopping until I finally get the justice that my children deserve, and that's the only thing I care about. And yeah, it's just, it makes my blood boil just thinking about it. And how many other children that have been taken.
Well, I mean, it's a child. It's a child a minute is the statistic. 1 child per minute every day is taken into CPS custody in this country, and that's to be never returned home. By the way, that's never to be put back or reunified. Nothing. So that number is pretty damning. It's pretty sickly if you think about just sheer volume.
I'm not trying to be political or anything, but at the same time, our country, we live in America. They work for us. We do not work for them. A lot of people are fed up because I don't know how people are religious-wise or whatever. I don't care. It's going on in the world right now. I don't know if y'all have any idea about what the Met Gala is, but it was a bunch of celebrities. They got together. They pretty much reenacted the Hunger Games. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen that. But these celebrities they sit on this big old throne and they think they're better than everybody, and then they are trying to make video and act like they're one of them, and they're not. A ticket to get into the Met Gala was $75, and that did not count the outfit. Yeah, that didn't count the outfit. That didn't count the people, the designers they paid, the makeup artists they paid, none of that. So while that was going on, and while that was going on, there was Palestine overseas, and Rafah they were getting bordered in. They could not leave. If they were to get blown up or shot or anything that could have happened. Children overseas are getting bombed and limbs lost and everything, and it just a lot of the people I'm on the side of TikTok that a lot of people are fed up with it. We're going on the rampage thing where we're blocking celebrities, because every time we block a celebrity, they lose millions of dollars. There's been millions of people who have gotten together and done this because we're tired. We are tired of living in the country that we live in. We're tired of the inflation. We're tired of barely making it by. It's and the farther you go up north, the worse it gets, is what I think, because we don't have it that bad. We have it bad, but we don't have it as bad as the people that are like in California or just further upstate. I always hear that there's like $8 gas. We're barely on $3 a gallon of gas. I think it's time for everybody to reunite. It doesn't matter what skin color you are. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. Everybody needs to come together, because the amount of Americans that will overpower the government, the CIA, the FBI, like, we can overpower them. And it's time for a revolution. 100%.
I mean, it's certainly time for us to let them stop stealing our kids. I know that, because this is just out of control. I mean,
Yes, and
that's
that's
where this
part of it.
thing, and honestly, this revolution will be forced by CPS being abolished or taken down, because everything in this whole country is funded by CPS. This
Yes.
money goes through every vein of our government. And it's, I know Charles is probably sitting over there on the bit. He's, like, yes, preach it, basically, because Charles wants the 76 thing too. Charles says, we're ready for this stuff, right, Charles? Well, I guess he wasn't listening to that whole span. But anyway, so they take your kids for the first time, right? You get them
Yes.
back. How long were they taken for that first
So March 2nd of 2023. My daughter was 1 in January, so they were gone for about 9 months. We got them back December 25th. Yeah, it was something like that, sometime in December. No, it was December 7th, sorry. So we had got them back December 7th, so they were gone for about 9 months. My daughter was a month old when she was gone. We had them back just in time for me to throw my daughter a party, and then they removed them again February 1st during the court hearing. And then we got them back April 9th. And that was because the second time was because of a failed drug test, which the Delta 8, Delta 9, blah, 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 BS.
Right.
If we would have known, we would not have even touched it and jeopardized our children's safety for that. You know what I mean?
Right. Delta 8, Delta 9. Did you guys have a specialist look into that Delta 8, Delta 9 situation, or did you do that research yourself?
I did my research myself. Not very much.
Okay.
There's not very many scientific studies on it right now.
Right.
But the scientists did find it. It made perfect sense. I mean, it's the Delta 9 getting mixed in with the Delta 8 without our knowledge, and that's how it showed up. Because Delta 8 alone is proven to not show up on a drug test by itself.
Right.
But if you have another source of T9 that can show up on drug tests by itself, that's what our problem was. And I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but it was like Arabs who owned the vape store that we went to, so of course they're not gonna say, "Oh, are you subjected to a drug test?" Like they just were in it for the money. They just wanted to sell. That's all that was.
Man. So where are you at now in your case? Like, what's going on now with everything that you got going on?
So right now, we are looking at about a month or 2 months.
To the best that you can talk about it.
Do what?
To the best that you can talk about it, freely, like without, saying too much or whatever.
Yeah. Whenever my case is closed, I'm gonna go and expose every single caseworker that has ever come in my life and lied on an affidavit. I'd actually written something up, and my attorney said, I don't want you to read this today, but whenever we get the case officially, you can go on freaking fun, do whatever, hold the middle finger up, do what you want.
Right. Right.
So, right now we're waiting. It's just kind of like another waiting game, just like it is every single freaking year and every month.
Yeah.
We're waiting
Melissa
for
knows about that.
Yeah. All the people that are involved, so like the kids' attorney, the CASA workers, the CPS, they're called To Engage here in Texas. We're waiting on.
What are they called? To Engage?
To Engage. To, and then I think it's the letter N, and then Engage. Yeah. I've even reported a caseworker or two to the To Engage. I forgot what it was called though. But we're kind of waiting for everybody to sign off on this, and then once the judge has that across her desk, she's actually looking forward to sign off on it. yes, I was very happy about that. Don't get me wrong, we've worked our ass off this last year, 2 years now, 3, almost going on 3 years. And it's not been easy. It's been very hard. And I will continue to fight, and I will continue to expose the corruption. And once I am legally free fully to do so.
That's freaking great. That's great. Man, it's just kudos to you for being strong enough and being able to keep your kids, and get them back, because it's not very often that they give them back to you, they take them back, then they give them back to you again, and then, you know what I mean? Like they're definitely playing the milk roll system.
Yes, and even on a short notice too.
Right, correct.
What does carry mean?
Carrie says, sounds like rebranding. I don't know, Carrie, what do you mean by that? Here, why don't we call Carrie? We could ask her. It'll be a lot easier to
go for it.
Get Carrie on the phone. All right, rebranding. What does Carrie mean? Let me see here. I think I have a number right here. Melissa, what's your thoughts so far here? Or not so far, but into this story?
Oh,
well, I think that Casey has been a very resilient person throughout this, especially for her age. Because it's very easy to be overwhelmed by the big, scary jurisdictions. So that's the first thing I want to say, and I want to congratulate her on winning her case. And I think that if more parents take the time to sit down and actually just read that basic Know Your Rights handbook pamphlet that they give you that's all of about 15 pages, even reading that much would make a difference, because it tells a parent that they do have rights. I mean, so many parents, when they get involved with the system, they just don't know that they have any right whatsoever except to kiss their ass.
Yeah.
So I think, as a parent, people need to start reading the fine print. If it works well for medication, why the hell don't it work well for law?
Good question there. All right,
Carrie
guys,
says that.
Yeah, Carrie says, what did she say here? Oh, okay, I see
it was
the
about
name,
the
right?
to engage.
Yeah, I mean, what does that mean, to engage? What the hell does that mean, to engage?
So in Texas, the way it works is first your case goes to a CPS investigation, and then you are either involved with FB, something like that, and then whenever your child is officially taken and into custody, you are sent to this to engage, and they're basically caseworkers, and they do CPS, same thing, same work and everything, but they're basically the guardians of the children, and the paperwork that I was served, or the paperwork I was given, basically states that I am my own children's, which sounds even twisteder to me. It's not a word, but it's very twisted and but it just, I don't know. And then seeing the number that my child was, it just irritated me even more.
Right.
If there's a way I can get my child out of the system, which there is, you just have a max of so many like months, I think. But you can get your whole name and like everything wiped off the system. It just has to be within a certain time frame. Because that was something my mom did. My dad had gotten CPS involved with my mom and with me. That's why my mom was never allowed to be supervised with my children, even though it wasn't even her that did it. It was my dad that caused everything, because she didn't get her name cleared from the registry list. So yes, I will be until I win at that point.
Hey, Macy, quick question for you.
Yes.
I'm sitting here talking to Charles, and we're discussing the shopping orders of the type of children that CPS picked. What's your children's hair color and eye color?
Blonde.
Oh boy, yep.
Yep.
Oh, fuck it.
Yep, I know. Trust me, I know. Yeah, that's why I was a chaotic bitch, and I did not stop until I got my children back safe, belonged.
Well, see, me and Charles have been sitting here debating how to use almost the argument of racism, but kind of reverse racism because of
Kind of reverses, total reverses.
Yeah, total reverse racism. The fact that they are trafficking blonde-haired, blue-eyed kids.
Slavery. It's slave trade.
Yeah, and
you know, some areas where they like the mixed kids with the real light eyes, but predominantly you see a lot of trafficking of the blonde-haired, blue-eyed kids. And even Nancy Schaefer spoke out about it. So we're looking at trying to find a way to use the arguments of racism to remove cases from the state courts and take them up to a federal court.
I wouldn't have very much advice on that. Something that I am probably going to start learning a little bit more about now that since I've been Malibu's assistant. I do know that Nancy Schaefer also mentioned that some counties often offer $4,000 to $6,000 for each child adopted out to strangers, and an additional $2,000 for a special needs child.
Just to let you know, Mace, that was the fee back in like 2008. It is now well over $50,000 per child on a Title IV incentive. But as we found out through the other night, the adoption incentive has expired, but the government is still paying it out. So she was saying that it fell under like a false claim, almost like a false billing,
Right.
like medical false billing.
But she also
she
said
did say that complaints could be done to the DOJ, and that if the DOJ refused to pick them up, that they can then be taken to a suit basis.
But she did say that they have the incentives package are still alive. That's the way that they were funneling the money. It was through the adoption bonuses. It was where they're adding all the extra money to, so that they're getting that.
And all the research that me and Darren have done over the last about 2 years now, Darren?
Yeah.
About 2 years, we've been researching kind of how much they get paid on a single child based on a 15-month stint in care with an adoption at the end. It ends up being really close. Didn't we figure out that it was somewhere between like $750,000 to $1.2 million?
Yeah. Somewhere between 3 and 5 million, I think, is what we totaled up, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the average healthy normal child was somewhere around 1.2 million by the time everyone's paid off, and that the high risk children were going upwards of 3 to 5 million.
Yep. Yeah, the base was 1.2 million, the base price.
And I go through our state's checkbook. They just call it checkbook. You can go in there and you can look and you can see how much federal funding has went to Alabama DHR in the last 12 months. Okay, I know that there's currently it's like 6,489 kids in care in the state of Alabama. You can't see the races or the everything else, but you can see the count of how many's in there. And I know last year alone, they made almost $6 billion in funding.
Believe it. And it makes me absolutely sick that they think our children are just dollar signs.
Well, and that's why me and Darren have been working on ways to argue essentially the misuse and misappropriation of the fund at a much higher level than our state level.
Yep, that's what the goal is. We're gonna get these bastards. We sure will. But guys, we are way past our time. Macy, I don't know if you've ever watched this with us or not, but since Melissa's up on the board, we'll let Melissa lead the way. This is how we end every one of our shows. Melissa, last words for tonight.
My last words are to every parent out there fighting, don't give up. Your kids have no one but you to depend on, and we don't want to leave them with the bullies.
Charles, last words from you, my man.
I would just suggest that we need to explore this a little bit more. Whether you are Black, Hispanic, Vietnamese, or white, consider very seriously whether race is playing a part in your case, because the essence, the heart of civil rights law is it evolved from racial conflict and class conflict based on race. And anytime you can raise the issue of race, whether you are Black, Hispanic, Vietnamese, Chinese, Arabic, you will have you basically, they cannot shut you up if you can make a credible allegation that there is a racial pattern or a racial substance to your complaint. And I know a lot of people feel very uncomfortable about that, but it applies to everybody.
All right, that's good stuff.
I do agree
Herbert.
with that.
Right, excellent. Herbert, last words, buddy. Where's Herbert? Herbert. Oh, he's not. Here we go, Herbert.
Yes,
go
hello.
for it, man.
Okay.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Since CPS personnel do not have camcorders, I recommend that parents always have their cell phones on when they're speaking to CPS. You can stick your phone on recording and stick it in your top pocket. They have no clue they're being recorded.
Right. Good thoughts, man. All right, Macy,
I
on to you.
do-
Last word.
Sorry, but what Herbert said, I do want to make sure that you guys do know the consent laws in your state, because you can legally be in trouble for recording if it's not legal in your state.
Yes, that is so true. Always make sure you're paying attention to the laws and what you're going to do. But Macy, last words from you.
I just for Carrie, she said, do you have any advice for us on how we can get knowledge to parents as they become involved with CPS? My best advice is just whatever you've learned, teach them, spread them. People like you guys and people who are continuously exposing the corruption, and just don't give up. And just like Melissa said, your kids are depending on you, and it's not worth losing your life over, and it's not worth giving up. Just stay strong, and God got me through a lot of stuff that I just really, I'm not trying to force religion on anybody, but my job as a religious person is to spread the gospel and pray about it, and never give up, because God listens 100%. That's really how I made it through this case. I pray every single day, and I every single day as well. So, and God's coming back a lot sooner than we all think. So I just want everybody to keep their faith and be strong, and don't give up on him, because there's going to be a much better place for every single one of us if we get right with God. So, yeah, that's about it.
All right, good. No, thank you, Macy. Thank you very much. Well, let's clear the boards. I got my last words coming up. All right, everybody. That was it. Macy, she was able to show us that it is possible to not lose your kids. I mean, she's got a little bit more to fight, but she's that girl's in it to win it. I advise all of you to rewatch this episode, listen to what she has to say, because you know her points are valid, and the things that she did made it so that her babies are at home right now, sleeping in their beds. So, you know what? Pay attention to what Macy said. It could save your kids. Carrie, Brenda, love you guys very much. Thank you for being out here tonight. You guys rock. We appreciate you very much. And I'm the CPS Punisher. I'm out of here. See you guys tomorrow night. 20, maybe not. We'll see. If tomorrow's Friday, we'll be here. Have a good night, guys.